If you had told me a year ago that my life would unravel because of missing shirts, a borrowed jacket, and a pair of trainers I never even got to wear, I would have laughed. I would have said I was overthinking. I would have said he, my fiancé, was stressed or tired or simply not paying attention. I never imagined the truth would be so much uglier than anything I could have made up. My name is Isabel, and 3 months ago, I was 6 months pregnant with our first child. Back then, I still believed I was building a future with a man I trusted. We lived together, planned baby names together, talked about buying a home together. I thought I knew who he was. But the day I came home and found my late father's watch missing, the one thing I swore I would keep forever, something inside me shifted, something small, almost imperceptible, but sharp, like the first crack in a sheet of ice. When I asked him, he told me I was imagining things. He made me question my own memory, my own sanity. And because I was pregnant, exhausted, and trying to keep our relationship grounded, I let it go. I didn't know that the crack would spread, widening until it swallowed everything I trusted. I didn't know that his family, people I barely interacted with, were quietly claiming pieces of my life behind my back. I didn't know I would one day watch security footage of the man I loved, carrying my belongings out of our home, like they were nothing but boxes in a donation pile. And I certainly didn't know I would end up standing alone in our living room, pregnancy hormones raging, heart in pieces, looking at him with the kind of clarity that only comes when you finally accept the truth. He never saw me as a partner. He saw me as a resource, a provider, a woman who would forgive anything as long as she was afraid of raising a child alone. I was wrong. And that day, after months of gaslighting, lies, and stolen belongings, I made the one decision he never expected. I kicked him out. I didn't know it then, but that moment was only the beginning. The real storm hadn't even started yet. If you looked at us from the outside, a few months before everything fell apart, you'd probably think we were a fairly normal couple. I'm 31, I work in IT, and I make enough to live comfortably. Nothing flashy, but solid. My fiancé, Sam, is 28. He works part-time at a grocery store, making about $100 a month. When people heard I worked in tech and he worked in a shop, some of them did that subtle eyebrow raise they thought I didn't notice. But I did. We'd been together for 3 years, lived together for about a year and a half, and when I found out I was pregnant, 6 months before all of this, I genuinely thought we were moving into the next natural chapter of our lives. We met at a friend's birthday party in one of those cramped bars where the music is slightly too loud and the lighting is always a bit too dim. I remember Sam standing near the bar, laughing about something with my friend's brother, his hands moving animatedly as he talked. He had that easy charm that makes strangers feel like they've known him forever. He bumped into me carrying 2 drinks. Sorry, my fault, he said, steadying my elbow. Let me replace that if I spilled any. You're safe, I replied, looking down at my still full drink. Although if you're offering free drinks, I won't say no. He grinned. Noted. I'm Sam, designated clumsy guy of the evening. We ended up talking for most of the night, tucked into a corner near the window where the air was slightly less sticky. It was one of those conversations that felt strangely easy. No forced small talk, no awkward silences. By the time I left, his number was in my phone and my cheeks hurt from smiling. The first year together was good, simple. We didn't have much money, but we made it work. Cheap takeaways, Netflix, walks with my dog around the park at night. When he finally moved into my apartment after a year and a half of dating, we sat at the kitchen table, shoulders touching, and talked finances like 2 reasonably responsible adults. You make way more than I do, he said, scratching the back of his neck. So it's only fair if we split things based on what we earn. I don't want you to feel like I'm freeloading. He said it seriously enough that I believed him. We agreed to split rent and bills proportionally. He'd pay according to his income. I'd cover the rest. It came out to him paying less than me, obviously, but it felt fair. I make about 5 times what he makes. The numbers made sense. When he first moved in, he insisted on paying his share of everything. Rent, utilities, groceries. His share of the utilities and food came to about $500 a month. I don't want anyone saying I used you, he joked one night when I suggested covering more. I've got pride, you know. I smiled, warmed by that. Back then, I thought it meant we were on the same team. About 3 months in, he sat on the end of our bed one evening, head in his hands, phone open on a banking app I wasn't supposed to see. What's wrong? I asked, sitting beside him. He exhaled slowly. I'm struggling, Izzy. I've got some old credit card debt, and with the rent and everything, I'm barely keeping my head above water. He didn't look at me as he spoke, like he was ashamed. I remember feeling this wave of protectiveness. I wanted to fix it for both of us. Okay, I said, gently touching his arm. Then stop paying rent for now. Just pay your part of the utilities and groceries. That's about $500 a month. I can handle the rest until you get back on your feet. He looked up, eyes glossy. Are you sure? I don't want you to resent me. I won't, I said, and I meant it. We're a team, remember? He hugged me so tightly I could barely breathe, mumbling, I don't deserve you, into my hair. What I didn't know was that, while I was trying to be understanding and generous, his family had started seeing me less as the woman he loved and more as the woman with the stable income. At first, it was small things. His mom asking for a bit of help with a bill, his sisters messaging him with minor emergencies, his brothers needing shoes, clothes, this and that. He'd mention it in passing, always downplaying it. My mom's just having a rough month, he'd say lightly. Dean's still looking for work. Kyle's hours got cut, that kind of thing. I met his family a few times. They were cordial. His mom hugged me a little too tightly, thanking me for taking care of our Sam. His brother Albert made jokes about finally having someone responsible around. I laughed it off back then. I thought they were just being affectionate. I didn't realize those were the first hints that they saw me as the safety net, someone who would always pick up the slack, no matter how large it grew. By the time I was 6 months pregnant, the pattern was already there. I just hadn't dared to look at it closely yet. Because once you really look, you can't unsee it. If I'm honest with myself, the signs were there long before anything went missing. Little things, subtle things, things I explained away because love makes you do that, turn red flags into soft pink ones and call it compromise. It started around the second trimester of my pregnancy. Sam became different. Not cruel, not distant, just defensive, secretive, evasive. He would snap over the tiniest questions, then wrap me in his arms minutes later and blame it on exhaustion or stress or my hormones. One night, I opened the fridge and noticed half the groceries I bought were gone. Did you eat all the yogurt? I asked, half laughing. Sam didn't laugh back. Why? You keeping inventory now? I blinked, taken aback. No, there were 6 yesterday. He shrugged. My brother came by while you were napping, I told you. He hadn't, but I let it go. Another time, I noticed a nearly new hoodie missing, the one I wore on chilly morning walks with the dog. When I asked him about it, Sam told me I left it at the park. I wasn't even at the park yesterday, I said, confused. You're pregnant, he said gently, kissing my temple. You forget things sometimes. And again, I let it go. Because that's what you do when you're building a life with someone. You pick your battles. You assume good intentions. You believe the person sharing your bed would never lie over something so small. But the small things were only the beginning. Sam's phone habits changed too. He used to leave it everywhere. The sofa, the kitchen counter, the bathroom sink. But suddenly he kept it on him like a second skin. He'd tilt the screen away when messages came in, turn off previews, delete calls. When I asked, "Is everything okay?" he would sigh dramatically, as if I were suffocating him. Babe, you need to relax. Not everything is a conspiracy. You're stressing over nothing. He said that so many times it became a script, a reflex, a way to shut down conversations before they even started. His family called more often too, his mother with her perpetual emergencies, his sisters with their guilt-tinged requests, his brothers with their borrow now, maybe pay someday mentality. Sam always helped them, even when he didn't have the money. So where was it coming from? I had a guess, but I didn't want to be the woman who accused her pregnant fiancé of stealing. Then came the night I discovered the missing boots. They were expensive, a gift to myself after getting a project promotion. I'd worn them once, then they vanished. I probably put them in the wrong closet, I said out loud, almost convincing myself. Sam didn't even look up from his phone. You misplace stuff all the time. Maybe slow down and be more organized. There it was again, soft gaslighting wrapped in concern. The next week, the watch my dad gave me for my graduation disappeared. That one broke me a bit. I tore through the apartment, checking drawers, closets, laundry baskets, even between sofa cushions. Sam watched me search, arms crossed. Izzy, you're spiraling, he said calmly, like he'd practiced the line. This isn't healthy. You're stressing out the baby. The watch is gone, I whispered, throat tight. It was right here. He kissed my forehead, pitying. Then you must have moved it. People forget things. People. He meant pregnant women. That was the first night I didn't sleep. I lay in bed, one hand over my belly, the other clenched around the blanket, staring into the dark, wondering if I was losing my mind or losing him. The worst part? I still wanted to believe him, believe that nothing was wrong, believe that the man I loved wouldn't lie to my face while wearing my clothes and gifts I didn't remember giving. But the truth was circling me, inch by inch, tightening like a noose. And it was only a matter of time before it snapped shut. The night everything truly shattered began like any other December evening, cold, quiet, the kind of darkness that presses against the windows. I was 6 months pregnant, tired in the way only pregnancy can make you tired, bone deep, slow, a constant ache. But exhaustion wasn't the reason my heart felt heavy. It was the feeling of being watched by my own home, of knowing things had shifted without knowing how to prove it. 2 weeks before Christmas, I bought myself a new pair of trainers. Expensive ones, the kind I'd wanted for months but never justified. A little gift to the future version of me, the version who felt like herself again after pregnancy. I tucked them neatly in their box in the spare bedroom closet. The spare room was my space, my sanctuary. But it was also where Sam wrapped gifts for his family. I didn't think much of that at the time. 3 days before Christmas, I opened the closet to grab something and noticed it immediately. The trainer box wasn't sitting the way I'd left it. The lid was slightly off-center. The angle was wrong. Small things. Insignificant, maybe. Except nothing in that closet moved unless I moved it. My pulse ticked faster, a nervous flutter beneath my ribs. "Sam?" I called down the hall, trying to keep my voice steady. "Did you get into the closet earlier?" His reply floated from the living room. "No. Why?" "Just checking." I closed the door quietly. My baby kicked, as if sensing my tension. I pressed a hand to my belly. "It's okay," I whispered, though I didn't believe it. That night, after Sam fell asleep, I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the glow of his charging phone. I hated the idea of checking it. I wasn't a snoop. I wasn't a jealous partner. I was a woman who had been made to question her own memories so many times she needed proof she wasn't going insane. My breath trembled as I picked up his phone. Part of me prayed I'd find nothing. Instead, I found everything. Messages between Sam and his mother on Facebook. Photos of my trainers, sent to her, along with questions like, "Do you think these will fit, Dean?" Her mother responded, "Yes, wrap them and bring them by. I'll put them under the tree." I kept scrolling. More messages. Not just the trainers. Sam, "He barely wears this stuff. Sizes should fit Kyle." His mother, "Great, just bring whatever you can." My throat tightened, my vision blurred. Not only was he planning to give away my things, he'd already been doing it. The next morning, I confronted him. I found him in the kitchen, pouring cereal like it was any normal morning. "Sam," I said, voice calm but shaking underneath, "why were you in the spare room looking at my trainers?" He didn't flinch, didn't blink. I wasn't. "I saw the messages with your mom." He froze, then turned slowly. "What messages?" "The ones where you sent her pictures of my trainers and asked if they'd fit Dean. The ones where she said she'd wrap them up." A beat, a long still one. Finally, he laughed. An airy, dismissive sound. "Izzy, no. You misunderstood. My mom asked what brand you liked so she could buy you a pair for Christmas. You're twisting things." I pulled up the screenshots on my phone and handed it to him. "Explain this." He stared at the phone for several seconds. His jaw moved, like he was grinding his teeth. Then, "Okay, fine. I considered giving them away. But I didn't. I realized it would upset you." He said it like I should thank him. My voice cracked. "Sam, this isn't a favor. This is stealing." He scoffed, defensive. "It's just shoes, Izzy. You have plenty. My family has nothing." "Then ask me. Talk to me. Don't lie to me. Don't gaslight me. Don't—" "You're blowing this out of proportion," he snapped. "You're paranoid, hormonal. You're insulting me." Tears burned behind my eyes as he stepped closer, towering, voice low and sharp. "You need to trust me. If you don't trust me, we have nothing." I took a breath. "Then show me receipts for the gifts you bought your brothers. Prove you didn't use my things." His face hardened instantly. "I don't need to prove anything to you." "Sam!" I said no. That was the moment something inside me cracked. Not loudly, not dramatically. Quietly. Like a thin line of ice melting under heat. Christmas morning, while he slept, I checked his phone again. He had deleted the entire message thread with his mother. Except one new message. He decided he wants to keep the trainers. I tried. He had rewritten the story to make himself the victim. And that was the moment the crack turned into a fracture. The moment I knew the man standing beside me was not the man I thought I was building a life with. I didn't kick him out immediately. People assume that's what I did the second I saw the messages, the second I caught him in a lie. But reality is never that clean, that decisive. Not when you're 6 months pregnant, exhausted, and terrified of raising a child alone. Instead, I walked back into our bedroom on Christmas morning, sat on the edge of the bed, and just stared at him. Sam slept like a man with an unburdened conscience, his breathing slow, steady. One arm draped over my pillow, the faintest smile on his lips. How do you look at someone you love and accept that they're capable of betraying you? For several minutes, I couldn't move, couldn't breathe properly. I pressed my palms against my eyes until the tears dried. I whispered to myself, maybe I misunderstood. Maybe it's not what it looks like. But the truth was merciless, cold, crisp. He had planned to give my trainers to his family. He had taken photos. He had lied straight to my face. He had deleted the messages. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a pattern. Still, when he woke up and stretched, yawning, rubbing the sleep from his eyes, I tried to stay calm. Sam, I said softly. He blinked slowly, turning toward me. Morning, babe. I need you to show me the receipts for the gifts you bought your brothers. His tone shifted instantly. Oh my God, we're doing this again? This isn't nothing, I whispered. You lied to me. He threw the blanket aside, sitting up sharply. I told you, I thought about giving the trainers away, but didn't. Why isn't that enough for you? Because you deleted the messages. That's because you twist everything, he snapped. Because you're paranoid and won't drop it. My chest tightened. My baby shifted inside me like he felt the tension. Sam, please, just show me the receipts. Or tell me the truth. I'm begging you for honesty. His jaw tightened. He crossed his arms. No. Silence stretched thick and suffocating between us. So that's it? I whispered. You refuse to prove anything? I don't owe you proof, he said coldly. I owe you nothing when you talk to me like I'm a criminal. A criminal? My voice broke. For asking about my own belongings? He stood abruptly. You're pathetic. You care more about stupid shoes than your child or your fiancé. No, I said, trembling. I care about trust, about respect, about not being lied to. He shook his head like I was being dramatic. You're overreacting. You always do. That sentence landed like a slap. You always do. Every time I'd confronted him, he'd told me the problem was me. My memory, my hormones, my emotions, my standards. Never him. And I finally realized he wanted it that way. I swallowed hard. Sam, I love you. But if you really didn't steal from me, why hide the evidence? Why lie about it? He didn't answer. He stormed into the bathroom instead, slamming the door. The walls shook. The baby startled inside me, and I pressed a hand gently against my belly. It's okay, I whispered. It's okay. But it wasn't, not anymore. When he finally came out, he wouldn't look at me. He brushed past me like I wasn't even there, grabbed his jacket, my jacket, ironically, and walked downstairs. I'm going to my mother's, he said flatly. Sam, don't follow me. He left, and for the first time in our relationship, I didn't chase him. I sat alone in the quiet house, twinkling Christmas lights casting shadows across the living room. The tree looked beautiful, but the gifts beneath, most meant for his family, felt suddenly heavy, wrong. I closed my eyes. I replayed every missing item. Every accusation turned back on me. Every lie disguised as concern. Every moment he made me question my sanity. My throat tightened. Tears slid down my cheeks, silent and hot. I had been defending him for months, excusing him, trusting him when he hadn't earned it, and now I couldn't tell whether I was more hurt by what he did or by what I allowed. Because I had let the pieces go missing. One shirt, one jacket, one watch, one boot, one little lie at a time, until nothing added up anymore. My reaction wasn't explosive, it wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, breaking, shattering. I whispered, to no one and everyone, I deserve better than this. And for the first time, I began to believe it. After Sam stormed out on Christmas morning, the house felt unnervingly still. I kept expecting the front door to open again, for him to walk in and apologize, to say the words I needed to hear. You're right, Izzy. I messed up. I'm sorry. But hours passed, then a full day, then 2. And instead of remorse, what I got was something far worse. Around midday on the 27th, my phone buzzed. A message from Sam. I'm not coming back until you calm down. You're out of control. Out of control. The words hollowed me out. A second message followed. My mom says you're exaggerating everything. She's right. You need to stop being so controlling. Controlling. It was like he had reached inside my chest and twisted something fragile until it hurt. I typed a reply, deleted it, typed another, deleted that too. I didn't trust myself to say anything that wouldn't be twisted back on me. Instead, I closed the messages and tried to focus on breathing. The next 3 days were a blur of tension. Sam's mother called me once, just once, and made it clear she believed none of this was Sam's fault. "Well, Isabel," she said, voice sharp with judgment, "pregnancy hormones can make women dramatic. You should be careful not to push Sam away. Men don't respond well to being attacked." "I didn't attack him," I whispered. "You accused him of stealing," she snapped. "What did you expect? Truth, accountability, anything other than gaslighting." But she wasn't done. "My boys don't have much, you know. If Sam wants to help his brothers, you should understand that. That's what families do." "It was my property," I murmured. "Well, if you have more money, what's the harm?" she replied casually. "You're doing well. They're not. That's life." My blood ran cold. In her mind, my belongings weren't mine. They were resources her own children could use. By the time I hung up, I felt sick. When Sam finally came home 2 days later, he didn't knock, didn't ease into the conversation. He walked into the living room like he lived in a world where I owed him an apology. He dropped his keys on the table, crossed his arms, and stared at me with an expression I had never seen on his face before, cold, calculating, irritated. "We need to talk," he said. I nodded, heart pounding. "Yes, we do." He launched into a practiced speech, his tone rigid and righteous. "I'm done with your accusations. I'm done explaining myself. My mom says you're spiraling, and honestly, she's right. You need to stop obsessing over shoes and jackets like they're life or death." I stared at him, stunned. "It's not the items, Sam. It's the lying, the gaslighting, the way you make me feel." "You feel," he cut in, "because you choose to feel that way. I haven't done anything wrong." My throat tightened. "You deleted the messages." He shrugged. "Because you read into everything. You twist things. I didn't want the drama. You were planning to steal from me." "No," he said sharply. "I thought about giving them away because you never use half the stuff you own, but I didn't actually do it. I saw the photos, the messages, and I changed my mind." He said it like that should absolve him completely. I felt something inside me wither. He moved closer, lowering his voice as if he were being the reasonable one. "Look, Izzy, you're pregnant. You're stressed. You're paranoid. You need to relax and stop attacking me." Attack. That word hit like a bruise pressed too hard. "I want you to prove you didn't give anything else away," I whispered, voice trembling. "Receipts. Something. Anything." He scoffed. "I'm not jumping through hoops for your insecurity. If you don't trust me, that's on you." Then he said the line that ended everything between us. "I'm the father of your child. Start acting like you appreciate that." My breath stopped. He softened his tone then, artificially, like flipping a switch. "We can make this work if you stop making everything a crisis." "I'm not making it a crisis," I whispered. "You are." He shook his head. "You don't know what you're talking about." He turned away, dismissed me, dismissed the conversation, dismissed the problem he created. And something inside me snapped so quietly it hardly made a sound at all. "Sam," I said. He paused. "Pack your things." He turned around slowly. "What?" "You heard me. Pack your things and get out." "Izzy," he laughed, incredulous. "You can't kick me out. I'm not leaving my pregnant fiancé because she's having a hormonal episode." "This has nothing to do with hormones," I said, voice steady for the first time in months. "You've been stealing from me." "I haven't stolen." "You had the trainers. You wrapped them. You took them to your car. I checked the camera footage." His face drained of color. For the first time, the truth cornered him. He tried to recover. You're spying on me?" "It's my home," I replied, "and you lied." He swallowed hard. "I'm not leaving." "You are." He stepped toward me, lowering his voice. "Izzy, think about this. Think about the baby." I did think about the baby. I thought about raising a child with a man who lied effortlessly, who manipulated, who stole, who weaponized my pregnancy against me. And I knew I couldn't do it. I stepped back. "Get out, Sam." His jaw flexed. "If I leave, I'm not coming back." "I know." He stared at me for a long moment, waiting for me to break, to beg, to backtrack. I didn't. Finally, he grabbed his bag and stormed out, slamming the door so hard the picture frames rattled. I exhaled shakily, one hand on my belly, feeling the baby move beneath my ribs. "You're safe," I whispered, but I knew it wasn't true. Kicking him out didn't end anything. It only started the war he was about to wage. Because Sam wasn't done with me. Not by a long shot. And what came next would be darker, louder, and far more devastating than anything before. When Sam walked out of our home, I thought the worst was over. I was wrong. His absence didn't quiet the chaos. It amplified it. It made the silence heavier. It made every room feel like an accusation. Every missing item a reminder that I had loved someone who was willing to strip my life bare while convincing me I was the problem. For a few days, I tried to keep myself together. I made tea. I forced myself to eat. I folded tiny baby clothes I'd bought on sale. I told myself I was strong. Then the messages began. Not apologies, not accountability, accusations. You're overreacting. You're controlling. You're trying to isolate me from my family. You kicked out the father of your child. Everyone knows how cruel that is. He sent those words like darts, each one landing in the softest, most vulnerable parts of me. But the one that gutted me most was this. If you don't back off, I'm canceling all the baby appointments. You don't deserve to be involved if you're treating me like this. He knew exactly where to strike. I spent an hour staring at that message, hands trembling so badly the phone screen blurred. My belly tightened with anxiety. My baby shifted uneasily. I pressed my hand against my stomach and whispered, "It's okay, I'm here, I'm here." But I felt anything but present, anything but strong. I felt alone, utterly, terrifyingly alone. The following morning, I made the mistake of checking his mother's Facebook profile. She'd posted a picture of Sam with the caption, "My boy deserves better than being controlled by a manipulative woman." Hundreds of comments, some from strangers, some from extended family, some from people I knew by name. All of them speaking about me like I was a villain, a thief, a parasite, a hysterical pregnant woman who had driven Sam away. Not one of them wondered why he had moved out in the first place. Not one of them questioned his narrative. I closed the app. I cried for an hour, ugly, desperate sobs that made my ribs ache. Every time I wiped my cheeks dry, more tears came, like there was too much grief to contain. Not just grief for the relationship I lost, but grief for the woman I had allowed myself to become. Quiet, shrinking, apologizing for things that weren't my fault. 3 days after kicking Sam out, I went to the living room cabinet to look for the envelope my grandmother had given me, $600 in neat stacks of $10 notes. Money I never spent because it felt like holding her hand. I opened the drawer. The envelope was gone. My heartbeat tripped. I checked again. Again. Tore the whole cabinet apart. Then the living room. Then the entire apartment. Nothing. Nothing. It wasn't just stolen. It was violated. A piece of my grandmother, my childhood, had been taken. When I confronted Sam about it through the baby communication app, the only channel I agreed to use, he didn't deny it. Not at first. He stayed silent for so long I could imagine the exact expression on his face, the one he wore when he was calculating how to turn a situation around. Finally, he wrote, "Even if I did, what does it matter now?" I stopped breathing. He continued, "You kicked me out. You don't get to interrogate me about money." Money. He thought this was about money. It was never about money. It was about trust, respect, dignity, safety. It was about realizing the father of my child didn't see me as a partner, but as an endless resource. When I told him to stop contacting me outside the baby app, he sent one last message. "People will believe me before they believe you." I stared at that line until the letters blurred, because part of me feared he was right. That night, I sat alone on the bathroom floor, the cold tiles pressing against my spine. My hands rested on my belly. My baby kicked lightly, soothing and heartbreaking at the same time. I whispered, "I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry." I wasn't apologizing for kicking Sam out. I was apologizing for choosing a man who would rather destroy me than admit he was wrong. I was apologizing for not seeing the signs sooner. I was apologizing for bringing a child into a world where half his DNA belonged to someone who stole from the people he claimed to love. My tears dripped onto my shirt, leaving dark spots. This was my lowest point, the moment everything truly collapsed. Not the lies, not the thefts, not the messages. This moment, sitting on that cold tile floor, feeling both mother and orphan, protector and victim, strong and shattered. Because I finally understood. I couldn't save Sam. I could only save myself and my baby. But at that moment, I didn't feel strong enough to save anyone. I didn't know it then, but I was inches from a turning point. One truth, one discovery, one undeniable piece of evidence. And everything would shift. The dark moment didn't end with catharsis. It ended with exhaustion so deep it felt physical, like my bones were carrying weights. But clarity often comes not with a shout, but with a long, quiet exhale. Mine arrived through a camera lens. I wasn't even looking for more evidence. I couldn't emotionally survive finding anything else missing. But I remembered something suddenly. Something stupid, something small. Months earlier, I'd installed cameras in the house to check on my dog while I was at work. A simple setup, one in the living room, one facing the staircase. I rarely checked them unless I was bored or missed the dog. Now, something whispered inside me. Look, you need to look. So I did. My hands trembled as I opened the app. The screen loaded slowly, painfully slow. And then I saw it. December 21st, 12:07 p.m. Sam walked up the stairs, empty-handed. 12:28 p.m. He came back down carrying 3 wrapped boxes. He wasn't sneaking. He wasn't hiding. He wasn't acting like someone who felt guilt. He looked comfortable, confident, like someone who believed deeply that he was entitled to what he was taking. He placed the boxes by the door, grabbed his jacket, my jacket, and walked out. No hesitation, no remorse. My breath caught in my throat. It wasn't just the trainers. He had taken multiple gifts, wrapped, ready, delivered. This was deliberate, thought out, repeated. I paused the footage, rewound, replayed, over and over. After 10 minutes, my tears weren't from heartbreak anymore. They were from clarity. This man, the man I loved, trusted, defended, had been stealing from me repeatedly and lying so convincingly, I questioned my own sanity. I wasn't paranoid, I wasn't hormonal, I wasn't imagining things. I was right. A strange stillness washed over me, not calm, but sharp, like stepping into cold water. I forwarded the footage to my solicitor with shaking fingers. Then I opened the screenshots of Sam's messages to his mother, the bank statements I found, the proof of his debts, the gambling charges, the deleted message threads. It all formed a picture so complete I felt overwhelmed. But for the first time in months, I wasn't overwhelmed by fear. I was overwhelmed by truth. And truth changes everything. When I confronted Sam with the footage and told him he needed to leave permanently, he didn't respond with guilt or apology. He responded with venom. You're insane. You're ruining my life. You're doing this to control me. You'll regret this, Isabel. You'll never see your child. But none of those threats landed, because I had finally seen him fully. Not the charming man at the bar, not the sweet boyfriend, not the future father of my child, but the man who believed he could take and lie and manipulate without consequence. And with that clarity came a decision. A firm, unwavering, unshakable decision. I would protect my baby. I would protect myself. And I would not let him destroy my future the way he destroyed my trust. So I contacted a solicitor. I began paternity paperwork. I began custody filings. I began documenting every message, every denial, every threat. And when a voice inside me whispered, "You're alone," a louder one finally answered, "No, I'm not. I have myself, and that is enough." This was the day everything changed. Not because Sam suddenly became worse, but because I finally became better. Better at seeing the truth. Better at choosing myself. Better at refusing to carry someone else's dysfunction as my responsibility. It wasn't empowerment. Not yet. It wasn't victory. It wasn't healing. But it was the first step. And that's all you ever need to begin a transformation. One moment of truth powerful enough to burn away the lies. Fallout doesn't happen all at once. It arrives in waves, uneven, unpredictable, sometimes quiet, sometimes violent. For Sam, the fallout began the moment I finally stopped absorbing the damage and started reflecting it back. The first real consequence? I stopped engaging with him emotionally. No more defending myself, no more pleading for honesty, no more giving him the benefit of the doubt. From that moment on, I communicated with him only through the designated baby app, cold, factual, minimal. And Sam hated it. He messaged constantly, "You're being dramatic. We can fix this. Just admit you overreacted. My mom says everyone sees what you did. You kicked out a pregnant man for no reason. If you cared about the baby, you wouldn't treat me like this." I didn't reply. Not to anything emotional, only to logistics, only when absolutely necessary. And that shift, my silence, was the first domino that sent the rest falling. A week later, I found bank statements he'd accidentally left in a drawer during the move. They showed not only unpaid debt, but new loans he had taken out while living with me. Hundreds, then thousands. And finally, the gut punch. £340 spent in 30 minutes on online gambling. I confronted him with this through the app. His response wasn't denial. It was entitlement. It's my money. I can do what I want. As if I hadn't been covering rent. As if I hadn't been carrying the entire household financially for months. As if I wasn't pregnant with his child and depended on stability. He followed it with, "If you're so desperate for the $500 a month I couldn't pay, maybe you should budget better." I stared at that message, stunned by the audacity. But I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I didn't correct him. I documented it, screenshotted it, forwarded it to my solicitor. Every message he sent became another brick in the case I was building, not out of revenge, but out of necessity. Then came the moment everything escalated beyond repair. He moved back in for a week after claiming his mother had kicked him out. I let him stay, not for him, but for the baby's safety, the weather, basic human decency. He promised to contribute again, promised to stop borrowing, promised to change. But promises are cheap, and liars never change because someone else needs them to. One afternoon, a notification lit up his phone on the coffee table. Loan approved. Click here to accept. My stomach dropped. I confronted him right there on the sofa. Why are you applying for more loans? He tried to snatch the phone, but I grabbed it first. I ran out of money, he snapped. I'll figure it out. Can you contribute to the bills this month? No. Can you pay for anything the baby needs? No. Then why take out loans you can't repay? He crossed his arms, eyes narrowing. That's what you're for. The room went silent. What? I whispered. You make plenty of money, Izzy. I can't work much. I'm stressed. I have responsibilities. You'll just have to cover everything until I get back on my feet. Back on your feet? My voice shook. You don't even try to stand. He rolled his eyes. You're being controlling again. I asked to see his bank statements so we could work out a budget. He refused. He raised his voice, accused me of financial abuse, said I was manipulating him, said he was scared of me. The irony made me sick. By then, I knew with absolute clarity. He didn't want a partner. He wanted a provider, a bank account, a safety net, a woman who wouldn't fight back. And I was done being that woman. I told him softly but firmly, pack your things, I won't ask again. He smirked, told me I wasn't strong enough to raise a baby alone, told me I wouldn't make it without him, told me no one would believe my side. Then he left, and this time I didn't let him back in. The news spread fast through his family. I didn't explain myself. I didn't defend myself. I didn't respond to their angry messages or voice notes calling me heartless, ungrateful, manipulative, cruel. Let them talk. Because the truth has a way of revealing itself, quietly, steadily, inevitably. And soon enough, it did. When Sam claimed he hadn't taken anything else of mine, the universe itself seemed tired of his lies. The missing envelope of $600 from my grandmother. The payment from his mother that suddenly matched the same $10 notes. The way he went silent when confronted. His refusal to deny it. His mocking reply. Even if I did, what does it matter now? He underestimated me. He underestimated my resilience. He underestimated the fury of a pregnant woman who finally sees the truth. I told him to leave. He threatened to ruin my reputation. He threatened to take my child. He threatened to destroy me socially, legally, emotionally. But threats are only powerful to the person still afraid. And I wasn't afraid anymore. I contacted a solicitor, began paternity filings, prepared for custody battles, documented every visit he denied, every time he weaponized access to the baby, every lie he told about me to his mother, sisters, brothers, friends. Sam wanted chaos. I wanted custody. Sam wanted sympathy. I wanted safety. Sam underestimated me. But the court wouldn't, because when fallout arrived, it didn't land on me. It landed squarely on him, loud, messy, unavoidable. And I walked forward, heavy with the weight of pregnancy, but light for the first time in months, in the place that mattered most, my heart. When people hear everything I went through, the thefts, the lies, the gaslighting, the custody battles, they often ask the same question. How did you survive it? The truth is, I didn't survive it because I was brave. I survived because I didn't have another choice. I had a baby on the way, a future to protect, a version of myself I was determined to become. There were days I felt like pieces of me were scattered across the apartment, on the bathroom floor where I cried until there were no tears left, in the closet where something was always missing, in the living room where the silence felt heavier than any argument we ever had. But slowly, piece by piece, I found myself again. Not because Sam changed. He didn't. Not because his family apologized. They haven't. Not because the legal process was easy. It wasn't. I healed because I learned the most painful truth. Someone else's chaos doesn't have to become your home. The custody hearings were long. The accusations against me were cruel. Being watched by a social worker while holding my own child was humiliating in ways I still struggle to explain. But every documented visit, every screenshot, every moment I stayed calm while Sam tried to provoke me. All of it built a foundation the court could not ignore. And slowly the narrative began shifting. Not because I fought aggressively, but because I stood consistently. Sam said I was controlling. The evidence said otherwise. Sam said I was unstable. The report said otherwise. Sam said I shouldn't get custody. The court disagreed. I didn't win everything at once, but I gained something far more important: stability, credibility, and my son's future. There's no dramatic ending to this story. Sam didn't suddenly realize what he lost. His family didn't reach out with apologies. The past didn't rewrite itself to make sense. Life rarely ties itself neatly. But I wake up now in a quiet apartment, my apartment, with my son sleeping peacefully in the next room. I make coffee in a kitchen where nothing goes missing. I fold baby clothes without panic. I walk through rooms that feel like mine again. And that is enough. If you're listening to this and you're in the kind of relationship where you keep shrinking to make someone else comfortable, where you apologize for things you didn't do, where your belongings, your boundaries, your sanity slowly erode, listen to me carefully. You are not crazy. You are not paranoid. You are not asking for too much. You are asking the wrong person. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is not stay. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away, quietly, steadily, purposefully, toward a life where you are safe, valued, and whole. That's the lesson I learned. That's the lesson I'm still living. And if my son grows up knowing one thing, I want it to be this: love should never require you to lose yourself.